problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds.
Well, welcome to Sarah's Country tonight to kick off your week wherever you have decided to tune in whatever special part of the world that you are in, of course. Sarah's Country is all about walking alongside you, whether you are a curious consumer, learning more about the New Zealand way of life in the country and how your food and fibre is uniquely produced, or you're a passionate food and fibre producer just trying to get through day by day to do what you have been put on this earth to do. I'm a big fan of perspective, and knowledge brings us that. So good on you for choosing to spend the next hour with us to keep moulding yours, to make the best decisions for you and your family. We have been head down in the stats of the show since it going live 6 weeks ago. And can I tell you that it's so encouraging to see that the average audience is actually sitting around with us for a full 49 minutes of the 60-minute show. So the fact that we've got you engaged for the majority of the show is incredible, and of course listening to podcasts is exploding. I'm so stoked, honoured from the bottom of my heart that you're enjoying Sarah's Country. If I can ask one small favour of you, if you are loving this show, can you kindly just tell one person about it this week? That would mean the world. We have, of course, an election year coming up, and this really going to be a one-off in a generation, I believe. I'm going to be here at the table with you all year going into that election, and we need as many people to be at that table having their voices heard as well. So wherever else do you get that opportunity on such a grand scale? If you are new to the show, welcome. I'm your host, Sarah Perriam, here with you across 10 different platforms from 7 o'clock Monday through Thursday. Of course, that's New Zealand time in the evening. And as we're finding out, 8 o'clock UK time. Welcome to our UK friends watching and listening. So there's something that's actually I haven't actually shared with you at all over the 6 weeks. Is that Sarah's Country is actually also being broadcast now across local radio stations every Saturday morning, and more local radio stations interested in taking the show as well. So check out sarahperriam.com to see where that is. Tonight on Sarah's Country, we will be having a lot of fun with a popular new trend that is exploding across rural circles online. It's the Will to Live Naked photo competition hosted in conjunction with the Naked Farmer. It's the mental health charity in Australia where the concept first originated. Well done to all of you brave souls out there that have done it so far. And we have a selection of my favourites to share with you throughout the show. And I think you'll recognise a few familiar butts, maybe. It takes guts to get your gear off, and of course it takes guts to talk about mental health. I'm really excited to welcome to Sarah's Country live after 7:20pm the Naked Farmer founder Ben Brooksby. I hear he is a real hoot, so you will enjoy. And tonight across the show, I want to know what tips, let's all be in this together, help you out personally when you've just had a rough patch. You know, is it something that's simple as going away into the hills by yourself? I absolutely love disappearing into the hills, into the tussocks with Miss Dolly, my wee miniature schnauzer. Or is it a bit of a meditation app to get you to go to sleep? Let's share some of those tips that work for you, because I can tell you through my mental health journey, it has been learning from other people about their tips and tools that has built my toolbox around my own personal mental health. So let's all be there for each other, because we need to weather together through this, and if we can, it's about keeping perspective as one of your friends. Can I share the words of a text I got this morning? I'm loving Sarah's Country. Now I have learnt to connect it to my Yui boom. Another dry, depressing day, hard to get going this morning. But after listening to your well-balanced and positive show, I have my turbo back. So this is why I do what I do. The Primary Industry Minister has paid for 2 feed coordinators to pair up farmers selling vital feed with those who need it. I'm joined later in the show by another character, Beef and Lamb Eastern North Island Extension Manager, Mark Harris, after 7:30, to understand how this is developing and will help desperate drought-stricken farmers. And to close the show, what to do about wool. Yeah, it's always a long pause after that question. There has been a report coming from the Wool Working Group for the past 2 years, and I'm concerned that has got lost in the post. So there's many questions starting to rumble on the ground in regards to this very expensive missing strategy document. National Council of New Zealand Wool Interest Chairman Craig Smith has got a few of his own, and it's going to be a great interview after 7:40. To kick off the show, though, this Thursday will be the biggest budget in a generation, and this Thursday night, a very special Sarah's Country. It's going to be our budget special, where I'll be joined by our leaders on some panels as we unpack what it means for rural water storage, rural health, rural roads, better broadband in the country. Who knows what there'll be there for us. But make sure you put that in your diary. 7 p.m. this Thursday, budget special on Sarah's Country. And you are a part of that conversation, of course, as well. So coming up in the show to kick us off, I'm first joined by Federated Farmers Vice President Andrew Hoggard to discuss where he believes the most effective spend should be. So while we get Andrew on the line, here's a selection of my favourite photos from this week's Will to Live Naked Photo Competition. This is Sarah's Country. Few photos popping in and out of there. I think going into the next break we'll have a nice playlist of some of the best Will to Live pairing up with the Naked Farmer in terms of the new Naked Farmer competition. There's lots of money up for grabs, so make sure you check out the next interview and we'll explain the details of how to enter. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments. I tell you what, every show you're getting more and more engaged with the show. I really appreciate it. Renee says, love your show, hashtag Hawke's Bay Drought. Thank you so much. Katie is watching from Federated Farmers, keeping an eye on her Vice President, who I'm about to talk to. Jock Innes cannot believe there is another wool working group. Jock, you'll certainly enjoy the interview with Craig Smith towards the end of the show. And everybody's starting to check out and wait for photos of people that they know with their kit off. Now, I have a upside down Andrew Hoggard. Oh, there he goes. As we said earlier, this budget has more hopes pinned to the side of it, and many hoping it is going to be balanced in the right areas to make sure we are not sliding into 3 or 4 times the amount of government debt we had this time last year. It's going to take generations to pay off. I honestly don't envy Finance Minister Grant Robertson at the moment at all having to make those calls. And of course, as I mentioned, this Thursday will be a Sarah's Country budget special, pouring through the pages with our panellists on what it means for rural. Don't miss it, 7 o'clock Thursday right here. So first out the gate was on the rural wish list was Federated Farmers Vice President and proud Manawatu dairy farmer Andrew Hoggard, who's not only stayed up a little bit late because he's milking in the morning, but Joel, he has had a shave for me. Bless you. Yeah. You're looking sharp, sir.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too scruffy on TV or computer screen, whatever we are.
We are on TV. If you broadcast, if you can watch it on TV, you're on TV. No, you're looking great. Thank you so much. I understand it's a very busy time for you amidst all of this COVID stuff going on as well. Oh.
No worries.
Now, my apologies. My phone's actually just called right in the middle of that, which is bugging me up. Let's talk about this rural wish list. There's quite a number of things on there, but how do we balance the money we need with sensible fiscal policy?
Well, I think the key thing is we've got to look at investing in projects and policies that basically take New Zealand forward. And so you can make the standard sort of investment decisions like you would on farm. You know, if I'm going to invest some money on farm, I'm looking for something that's going to move the farm forward, be it better sustainability, better productivity, or better lifestyle for myself. So those are the sort of things we need the government to be thinking about and making sure that for every dollar they invest, it's actually pushing the country ahead and making it a better place to live. You know, we're going to be left with a pretty big hole from the tourism sector that we need to fill. So that's going to be, you know, we're going to need some productivity to actually fill that hole. So yeah, from that principle, we've got a few suggestions there.
I think the big thing is what's going to make the short-term economic impact, because a lot of rural wish lists in the past are quite long-term plans. I mean, obviously, water storage, there's some, you know, that takes a long time to actually hit the ground and the pocket back into the government in terms of trade.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, some of the things like pushing forward the rural broadband initiative too, you know, that's sort of behind schedule at the moment. That's planned work that's, you know, it's all planned, it's all mapped out. You know, getting that sort of, you know, fast forward button on that, getting that happening a lot quicker and faster, you know, that provides not only jobs building those towers, but it also will create better productivity, better connectivity out in the rural regions and help, you know, various businesses grow. But if you're looking for sort of short-term jobs, and I think a lot of the sort of environmental challenges we've got could provide some of those. So the likes of, you know, increasing plantings, wetland projects, various sort of things like that just really need lots of bodies with lots of shovels to sort of make stuff happen. We heard the announcement on the weekend around the sort of biosecurity stuff with the wilding pines. So things like that, I think, will be, you know, good projects that sort of help with the not only the short-term job creation, but also better sustainability going forward. And that can, you know, if we can do some of this stuff that actually, you know, sort of takes the pressure off the environment, then we can maintain that productivity rather than the regulations, which will basically force the productivity down. And then hopefully in time we can do some of these works. So yeah, going the other way and actually doing the on-ground stuff first, we think's a good way to go.
Let's just jump back to the announcement there for those who may have missed it about Federated Farmers happy with the win around conservation interest being aligned to basically tackle something that has, in my mind, been forgotten and pushed to the side for far too long, which is a wilding pine explosion through places, especially like the Mackenzie country.
Yeah, yes, more Chris Allen's area of expertise than mine, but I know, you know, with these trees sort of just running rampant on a lot of the high country, it's sort of chewing up productive land, making the farms less productive. It's costing the farmers a lot to try and control it. So, you know, it is a big issue, and it sort of gets forgotten about, you know. At the same time, everyone's talking about planting more trees. Here we are talking about chopping down some trees, but it's important to differentiate that these trees aren't the right tree in the right place, they're the wrong tree in the wrong place. And so it's important to make sure we get that balance right.
Ross Ivy has a thing or two at Glen Tanner to say about how to manage wilding pines down there, so give old Ross a ring. Now, of course, you were talking about rural broadband prior to just the other day, $15 million announced for rural broadband connectivity improvement from the government. How many things do you believe they have been sitting back waiting to be put in the budget or pre-announced?
Well, I think you've got the announcement around Rural Broadband Initiative 2, which has been going on for quite a while. And it's the projects there. You know, they've just, I guess, fallen behind. There's consenting issues and the like, so probably that RMA reforms might actually help speed it up. To me, I think that works there, the plan's there. That's going to fill in some of the gaps. It's not going to fill in all the gaps. And I think once we've completed that rural broadband 2, then it's using the wireless internet service providers probably to really push out into those remote parts of the country, because they're the sort of smaller regional based, not number 8 wide. They do a quality job, but they're more flexible and more innovative, and so they'll be able to come up with solutions, whereas the likes of Chorus and Vodafone and they're sort of fixated on our tower's this size and that's it, whereas these guys can be a bit more receptive to the local situation. So I think there needs to be some thought given once RBI2 is complete as to how do we help these guys really connect in and fill the dots. Are there new technologies, and are there roadblocks in the way around rules and regulations that's just slowing everything down? Because it is important to get decent connectivity out into the countryside. It's where a lot of our money's been made. I've had so many phone calls from farmers over this lockdown period of struggling to be able to do their basic cloud computing, filling in GST returns, and then the kids are struggling to be able to connect with the school remotely to be able to do their homework and carry on with their education. So it's vitally important.
Absolutely, especially for the growth of Sarah's Country, broadcast live across the internet throughout the week too. Andrew, you've been doing me a hell of a favour, to be fair. Just lastly, I want to see, how does Federated Farmers balance some practical sense around how hard these heavy-handed environmental regulations are on the table without being perceived as wanting to go back to the way we were in terms of environmental management of our farms?
Yeah, I think, our submission on the essential fresh water, we had issues with a number of parts of it. We didn't have issue with the goal of, improving water quality. And so that's the sort of stuff we're talking about here is let's just move away from the one size fits all policy that might, blanket across the country, but instead focus at the catchment level, because every catchment's different. In my catchment, it's not nitrogen that's the issue, it's sediment and phosphorus. And what we've had since 2004 has been a programmed sort of targeted work with our regional council called the SLUI Project, Sustainable Land Use Initiative, which is really focused on poplar planting on the hillsides, identifying those high risk sort of erosion areas. And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it's resulted in a massive reduction in the amount of sediment that's heading into the waterways. So that's sort of a model program where it hasn't been about regulation. It's been about council working with farmers at that catchment level, and with the farm plans and help with the poplar planting, etc., and really driving success. And so that's sort of the thing we want to see happen around the country.
Thank you for your time tonight. It's Andrew Hoggard, Vice President of Federated Farmers, of course talking about the wish list for rural New Zealand going into this Thursday's budget. I'm really enjoying how there's a bit of a conversation exploding amongst you in the comments. That's great. It's about the community around Sarah's Country. Bronwyn Williamson, thank you. I'd love to read out your comments. Sarah, can you please tell me how advice from MPI is going to fill my dam with water, help me purchase grass seed, cricket bait, fert and supplementary feed? Bronwyn, I 100% agree with you, and I look forward to hearing from Mark Harris from Beef and Lamb coming up soon in Sarah's Country. But of course, next on Sarah's Country, it's time to leave your hat on, as Joe Cocker would say, but nothing else. We are bearing it all for our next guest in awareness for rural mental health. So stay tuned, you'll love this. Joining us from across the ditch is the Naked Farmer founder, Ben Brooksby. While we get Ben on the wireless, here's another selection of Joel's favourite photos this week. Entered into the Will to Live photo competition, and see if you can recognise any faces. This is Sarah's Country.
Lou, can I get you to come sit at the front here?
Ben's a 25-year-old farmer who takes photos in his spare time.
Yep, that's perfect. Now take all your kit off and we'll get some more shots.
He also has a knack for getting people naked.
We were one of the first sort of ones to get our gear off.
Yeah, comfy? Not really.
The first couple of minutes is a little bit daunting and a little bit chilly at some stages.
Ben's social media pages have tens of thousands of followers. Along with his own photos, farmers are sending him nudes by the dozen. But Ben's not a creep. It all started with this photo of himself and some strategically placed lentils.
I actually posted the photo on my Facebook page and it got a lot of laughs and all my friends sort of, got a bit of joy out of it and thought, why does everyone react to that photo? And it's because it was funny, I was naked, and I thought, I wonder if there's an Instagram page dedicated to something like that.
There wasn't, so Ben created The Naked Farmer.
My first thought was to get people to learn about farmers and where all their food and fibre comes from. Probably a month or two after that, I thought, this is a really good way to educate people on mental health as well. When you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you see a photo of a tractor with a naked person in front of it, you're going to stop and sort of read about it, aren't you?
Ben's uncle took his own life when his daughter was only 2 years old.
He was 22, and that is one of the things that really fuels my passion, that I need to get people to talk about this and don't hide behind the shadows.
The rate of suicide is 66% higher in the country than in the big cities, and farmers are twice as likely to die by suicide than other workers. Country males aged 15 to 29 are also twice as likely to commit suicide as the general population.
Getting your kit off is a hard thing to do, but it's a lot easier than what some people have to go through. So, yeah, it's just starting the conversation.
A lot of farmers, if they're struggling, they won't talk about it. So it's good, get the word out there and get people talking about it.
But it's okay to talk about it.
Ben himself.
It's lovely to have a slice of the video when Ben Brooksby appeared on the project in Australia there for The Naked Farmer. Now, Joel, my sweet and innocent producer, he's had a rough day. He has. Firstly, we went and did what I thought was going to be a straightforward deal with a stock agent on a 98 Mazda Familia that broke down on the way to the studio and then had to batter those Irish eyelids to a burly South African to get a jump.
Yeah.
And then his first assignment when you arrived here at work, what was that? Downloading the images.
Oh, just downloading all the naked people and sticking them into this playlist for you. Yeah.
Which seems to be going really swimmingly, but
so smooth.
you did get a bit of a shake up to the start of your day, but now you've got a red rocket to get around in. So
yeah, the jam jar, that's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah.
The jam jar went straight to the garage.
Yeah, if it runs, we'll see.
Stock agents, hey? Now, our next guest has had the pleasure of celebrating naked farmers for a few years and staring at photos of them. And joins us now, Ben Brooksby from The Naked Farmer in Australia. Whereabouts are you joining us?
G'day, Sarah. Yeah, I'm from Penola in South Australia, down the bottom of Australia.
Beautiful part of Australia, South Australia. Lots of vineyards.
Yeah, plenty of vineyards around this area. It's Coonawarra, so it's very, very, very spectacular.
So, of course, The Naked Farmer has taken over your life. Can you sort of give us a bit of a background of how you got into this type of PR work?
Yeah, so basically The Naked Farmer is a social media-based platform that's used to be a voice for farmers, and it all began just under 3 years ago. We're coming up our 3-year anniversary on Monday, and it all started from a simple photo of me in the back of a truck full of lentils, and a good mate took that photo and ended up on my personal Facebook and Instagram and got a lot of love and a lot of laughs, and it got people talking. And I thought, you know what? When I was planting those same lentil seeds back in the ground the next year, I thought, why not dedicate a social media platform dedicated to naked farmers? And at the start, it was about educating people on their food and fibre and where that comes from. But then within a couple of weeks, it blew up, and I had all these people at my fingertips, and they were all farmers. They weren't the city people that I was trying to connect with. And I thought, why not use this platform for something good? And that's when, it takes guts to get your gear off, as it takes guts to talk about mental health, and goes hand in hand with me. And I've lost an uncle to suicide, and I've had my own mental health struggles. So something that I'm extremely passionate about, and changing these statistics. And what a great way to get people talking.
I think that, I mean, in terms of blowing up, underestimate 109,000 followers on Instagram, over 60,000 followers on Facebook. And I mean, every time you see a photo, it just gives you a wee smile, but also to realise the vulnerability of taking your kid off is such a strong message to mental health. What are some of those positive stories that you've heard back about, how you've saved lives through this?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the community is quite large now, and I'm absolutely honoured to be a part of that community. And there is so many amazing stories coming out of, people posting their photo, feeling, having the guts to actually do it. And then, if you have, like, for example, in this area, like somebody has done a photo and it end up on the social media, and it's just started so many conversations around the town, and it's sparking those mental health conversations with everyone. And it's I guess that's the biggest thing that it's doing, is making that change and sparking those conversations. The hardest thing to do, breaking the ice, as people say. But I've heard so many great stories of, fathers and sons on the farm, talking about mental health for the very first time, and it's helped a lot of families out, and that's exactly what it's here to do.
What was the moment, tell me, when a young 22-year-old from New Zealand got in touch with this concept that we're now seeing across New Zealand?
Yes, Ali from Will to Live. She, what a ripper chick she is. She thought, during this winter period, why not let's do a photo competition. It's called the Naked Shepherd, of course. And there's 4 categories in our competition. There's best male, best female, and there's a $500 each cash prize there, along with some merch, some Naked Farm merch, some dog food, and we've got RB Sellers shirts as well with our logos on it, which, I'm super excited about that. I'm excited to get myself one. And then we've got 2 other categories, which is best couple, which is $1,000 for that one, and best group, which is $1,500 cash, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So it's the reason why we're doing it is to get people talking, and especially through the winter months, it gets a bit dark and dull, and it's hard to get motivated, and it's hard to, especially right now with everything going on as well, to add to the little scenario. But it's to get people talking and get people You realise it's a lot colder over here in winter to get nude. There'll be a few men there will be. I don't doubt that for a second. It would be absolutely freezing there. I've seen a few photos come in, and it's some bloody spectacular views there too of the peaks and the mountains, and it'd be cold on top of there. A few of them standing up there. I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, but to be fair, back in the old sports cafe days with Mark Ellis, and then the ice challenge that we did a few years back as well. New Zealanders are a bit ballsy when it comes to that. Tell me about the period of time there where you had your Instagram shut down.
Yes, that was probably about 6 months ago now, and it just disappeared. Instagram took it down. So after me trying to get in contact with them, I got nothing back from them. The media actually got in contact with me, and once they, talked to Instagram themselves, it got put straight back on after a bit of media attention, which is nice because it's all for a good cause. And once they actually looked into it, it was they knew exactly what it was about, and they were 100% behind it. So I've got a thumbs up from Instagram from here on in, which is nice to have.
And of course, it's all to do with the great cause that you're doing, and by, of course, publishing photos on social media. It is, of course, at your own peril that you're doing that, and it's of course a wonderful cause to get in behind. So if people want to be able to contribute or go and check out The Naked Farmer, contribute to the competition and check out The Naked Farmer, how do they do so?
All you have to do is send your photo into us or Will to Live, and that's how you enter, basically, and we'll chat with you through there and put you in the draw to win.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. It's been Brooksby, the founder of The Naked Farmer in Australia. Now, I have been talking about What are some of those tips and tools that you share with the group in the comments? Be brave in terms of what works for you. When you hit a bit of a rough patch, what are some of those tips that you can use, whether it's talking to a friend or going for a walk, just having some time alone, as Angela Clifford said last night. She's looking forward to getting her own personal bubble back, having children over the lockdown period. So I'd love to be able to share some of those tips, because I think that we've come so far in regards to our appreciation that our mental health is just as important as our physical health and getting through tough times. Thank you so much. I'm loving all these comments coming through. Really appreciate it. Now, next on Serious Country, we're going to head to the east coast of the North Island to check out on the feed coordination situation of our most vulnerable animals and farmers. And here's hoping we're seeing some form of light at the end of the tunnel.
This is Serious Country.
One of the first things you learn when you live out here
is where to shop for the things you need to live out here.
Like electric fencing.
Or horse feed.
Or bee suits.
Children. Chook food.
Do you want a couple of these?
Or something stylish to wear. Not everyone's got stuff like this.
But at Farmlands we do, and then some.
So if you need anything to help you farm,
grow, milk, dredge,
rear, come on in.
Because we're out here too.
Every morning.
Wonderful. Now, as we get Mark Harris back on the line, I think he's going to connect on through. We are just going to go down to some of the comments. Understand sometimes that there is a bit of a sound lag. There is some certain technical things that we're working on always to be able to improve the show. And of course, to be able to publish their own calendar for this Naked Shepherd competition that Will to Live is running, as we said, in conjunction. I understand Ben Brooksby from the Naked Farmer in Australia, they have produced calendars. It's kind of like the vet calendars that out of Massey University. They are really well done, put together every year. And I mean, do you know what I felt? It's not a weird thing, I don't think, but it's very interesting how everyone's bums are very unique. It's like the thumbprint, no one's got the same bum when you see these types of things. So good on you if you've gone out there and got amongst it. The range of ages and shapes and people's different situations where they're doing it is just great, because at the end of the day, this is just a shell, isn't it? We're more as humans than just our shell. I'm really looking forward to catching up with our next guest, who I think we've got on the line. It has, of course, we do not need to discuss a horrific situation on the east coast of the North Island. But last week, you got quite riled up on Damien O'Connor's interview that we did, whereby the drought funding was much appreciated. However, it wasn't extremely targeted to where it was needed. And the big thing at the time was about coordinating the feed, where it was coming to and where it needed to go. So I was informed late last week that a North and South Island coordinator was employed, thanks to funding from MPI, and coordinating that was Extension Manager for Eastern North Island, Mark Harris, who joins us now. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
This is Serious.
Sarah, last time we hooked up was in the Paratai Hall, bearing our soul around just what we're talking about. That's looking after our good people and telling our stories about how we can get down sometimes.
I really, really enjoyed listening to your own personal story, Mark, at the Will to Live Gisborne event that we held. It was our last event on tour, and I remember just the standing ovation to the brave people that spoke that night was just so heartening. And just a wonderful way to end it. So, I mean, Mark, all of those things, I know the Rural Support Trust in Hawke's Bay is absolutely under the pump, and everybody across the industry is doing a lot to collaborate and coordinate. Can you give us a bit of an update as of this week, Monday? What's the week looking like for some of these drought efforts?
Well, Monday's been a very busy day, and it's been a cool day because we've been pulling together a whole lot of things in coordination. So I believe you've had our famous Poppy Renton on your show. And I'm not sure if I'm live or not, but I'm going to try this. So I'm prepared to get naked, but it was a few years ago. My best shot at the moment. I know I'm going to be challenged at some stage. But we had Poppy on, and we've got Ali, who's taken the role here in Hawke's Bay to look after the North Island as a feed coordinator. we had Hawke's Bay Regional Council comms on, we had Beef and Lamb comms on, we had the Magic Rapper Run, so we had Sophie from there on, and the great work everyone's putting in together to try and bring things together. So I think what happened last week when we approached MPI, and they've been getting a little bit of stick, I think in some cases unfairly, because in the background they've been working as quickly as they can to bring things together. And so we had the feed planning things on 0800 numbers at Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ, which is put together as industry sector group. So the industry good bodies were there, Federated Farmers are there, Dairy NZ ourselves, MPI, all working together to try and put some stuff to help farms have a plan to get through. When you've got your plan, then you'll know what feed you need. So the next stage was to put the feed planning and coordination together. And I think we mentioned it to them in the morning of Tuesday, and that afternoon it was ticked off and announced, and we're still putting together the job description, so to speak. So that's quite cool because we're building as we go, and we've got people on the ground now doing that. Ellie and our end started at lunchtime on Friday, and I told her to take the weekend off, so no, she didn't, but that's fine, and got busy with Poppy was involved and others, and we've hit the ground running. And so we hope by Friday this week we'll be servicing people, but also actually along with MPI and who's funding it, we'll know actually what the role is, but it has started.
Good work. Congratulations on all your hard work. And to the new coordinators, thank you so much for taking on this role, because I'm sure it will be one filled with emotion. Just going back to that, Mark, though, there was a lot of criticism towards, and I think that's what really hit the nail on the head, was when people heard that there was funding coming through to tell people, sorry, I'm just getting so much feedback there, that they basically said there's money going into farm advisors telling you that you had no feed. And so I think that's where a lot of that came from. But you're assuring us that there's a lot of collaboration on the ground there, and that we will start to see some action.
Absolutely, and I'll just come back to that, the feed planning thing. So to make it clear, the industry bodies are triaging. So if someone rings into 800, in our case Beef and Lamb, they get me, and they have to put up with me for a bit of a collection of data to get a stake in the ground of where things are at. So we do a stock take, then we push that back in, and James Allen, who's coordinating on behalf of MPI, is turning around those cases very quickly and hooking them up. So it's a dating service with a trusted advisor, in this case a consultant, and those people are contacting the farms very quickly to try and do a feed plan. I'm not calling a feed budget at this stage, but a plan of how they might get through the winter. And I would say the resourcing on that is probably between 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours worth that is being resourced by MPI. So consultants getting fat on the back of this, I would take issue with that. I think the people I know are doing it, and I won't mention any names because there's a group of them. We're all there just trying to help other people through. In my case, in 1989, I went through a very rough patch, as you know from the story. Funnily enough, surrounded by a drought that got me into a hole. And now we've got people who are willing to help. So we just need people to put their hand up, give us a ring, and try us. Everyone who's rung us so far has given us really, really good feedback how it's helped them.
Can I ask a very simple, practical question? Yarning away to the old man, he's getting a bit nervous, and this is in Cromwell where there's no issue in terms of being halfway through his winter feed already, purely because of the processing backlog. How on earth do you budget for feed through to spring when we're hitting the cold months in terms of nothing growing and you have no winter feed left at all?
Yeah, look, and I want you to quantify old, because I've got a feeling that you're and me might be a similar age. But hey, look, and this is the tough thing, and it's the reality that there is a shortage of feed, and it is, in our case, we say winter's 90 days. That's a good winter, but we need to plan. We need to plan to work out what we've got left to pull in the way of handles. So if something goes wrong, what's the next lot of stock going off? It's not all about feed. It's actually about supply and demand, and I think that that's the key thing people are finding. The other thing I'm finding is when people do ring in, they've actually in their mind got quite a good idea of what they're doing. They may not have put it on paper, and this helps them confirm that they're on the right track. And those people are helping out have quite often got little tips and tricks that can help you get through. So, yeah, it's a real tough one, Sarah, and we're not going to make it say there was plenty of feed around, but there is feed around. It may not be exactly what you want, but by the feed plan and working with the people who are trying to help, we may find that there's a substitute you need to put in a mix, and that goes. And so that's going to be a challenge for us. We're not hiding from that. But the other call is, what are the handles you can pull? I understand that the processing plants are now getting back up to speed and almost on top of things. So you start to think, we don't like selling. I'm from Gisborne. We love our cows up there on the hill. We don't like to sell them. But if you have to downsell, what will be the next thing that goes to get through to keep your feed supply and the demand in some sort of equilibrium?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know I've had a lot of feedback saying that people would really appreciate if the government came out and acknowledged the long-term effects of what's going to be happening here on the rural economy, and the culling of our capital stock is just absolutely devastating, Mark.
Yeah, it is. And look, we've been here before, to be fair, where we've had held down on farms. I think probably the size of this event with COVID over is the one that's killer. COVID's come over the top, but there's a lot of the country that's been short of feed for a while, and south when it's too wet, and up here it's too dry. But the plus factors are things are moving a little bit, and also some areas have had a bit of rain now, which is taking pressure off. I find it interesting that we've struggled to find feed, but if I look at what Sophie and the team have done in Warrapa, as of this morning, they've got something like 330 bales donated from an area that's still a bit short of feed. So, if we dig deep enough, we can start to find a bit of the stuff and try and marry it up to people that most need it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I've learned about this situation is that we are all in this together, and therefore we'll rise out of this together. I've got two last questions. What's the one thing that's on your budget wish list, Mr. Harris?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about what they're going to put out there. Budget wish list. Well, rain, definitely rain. So if the team in power can bring some rain on, it'll be really good.
And some dams to be able to capture it as well would be great. And also, as I know that you are a very big advocate for looking after your mental health, what's the one thing that you do to look after your mental health?
I'm very lucky. I'm married to a magic lady called Fiona, and she knows me too well now, and she tells me how to shut down. But it's actually, I ring up 4 mates randomly, and sometimes they're random mates, as in real random, but I ring up 4 people every weekend to see how they're getting on. And I just want to mention Ben, and he may not see it, but on Poppy's website, there's a lot of people having a bit of fun getting their kid off, and that's causing conversations to occur within that chat box. So, yeah, just hook up with friends, chat. Do not get isolated. The people out there want to help, give them a ring.
Absolutely. You're never a burden. Never, ever, ever a burden. I thank you so much for taking the time, Mark Harris. I could talk to you till the cows come home. I really appreciate you joining us tonight on Sarah's Country. Going to the comments, Fiona Windle says, playing your favourite music up loud can help lift the mood. You could not be any more right, Fiona. I am a massive music fan, as you are aware. Every night I step in and, as I say, I put on my mask. At 5 o'clock, it's my way of going from business Cespes to Seraperium, and music is what really gets me in that headspace to come on here and talk to you live for an hour, which I absolutely look forward to every single day. And it's great to see Rebecca Miller is watching from Ash Vegas, just down the road. Welcome to Sarah's Country, Rebecca. We must catch up soon. So next up, Craig Smith. And if anyone knows me, if you put together 2 topics, which is wool and politics. Certainly am in my element, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to Craig Smith to unpack a missing report from the Wool Working Group. All that next.
This is Sarah's Country. Even when everything changes, some things will always stay the same. The cows still need milking. The economy still needs dairy, and dairy farmers will always have what it takes. Whatever you need to keep milking, our job during the lockdown is to get it to you, because we know what it takes.
Delicious. Ever wondered where it starts? Does it start with care? Respect. fresh grass 365 days a year. The truth is, delicious doesn't start in a single moment or with a single ingredient. Delicious starts here.
This is Sarah's. Now, of course, that time that you've all been waiting for. There's a particular Jock Innes that I know is been sitting here patiently waiting to talk about it. And I want your comments. I want your comments about how you feel about the efforts going in to fix the wool industry. I know how passionate a lot of you around the country are, and so am I, of course, coming from a wool family. So, when I've discovered the wonderful Craig Smith took over the chairman role of the National Council of New Zealand Wool Interests, I was most excited because I know this man is not only passionate about wool, but passionate about making something happen. And he joins me now. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening, Sarah, and thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, absolute pleasure is all mine. You spoke to Annette Scott from Farmers Weekly last week, I think it was, and just basically getting an understanding of who you are and your background. But straight away, of course, we'll go into that, but straight away it's knee-deep into where is this missing report of the Wool Working Group. Before we sort of get to know a little bit about you, have you had any progress today?
So, very good question. And the Wool Report has been going around, we've got to put some context around it. It's been going since the end of 2017. It was first initiated by Minister O'Connor. And since then, there's been a lot of working groups. The wool price has gone up, it's gone down. And I would love to be able to say to you right now that I knew when it was going to be released and how the minister was going to release it, but I can't. I have seen the report. I've spoken to people that are on the Wool Working Group around that report, and hopefully tomorrow I might have some more clarity because I had a meeting with MPI today, and they are meeting with the minister tomorrow to figure out how they're going to release and how they're going to portray this report. Now, it's really difficult for me to sit here and tell everyone that there's a golden egg or a silver bullet in there that's going to fix the wool industry. And, as I said, I can't tell you what's in it, but, let's hopefully that by the industry, as they're doing right now in this really difficult situation, working really well together. And the minister needs to understand that. Instead of throwing bullets at the industry, how about listen to what they've got to say? And so that's all I can say at the moment. But we, as an industry, we can either do three things. We can sit back and not even bother about the report. We can come out and attack it, or we can get in behind it and support the report in whatever shape or form that may be. Now, until we can share that with the industry, it's pretty hard to be able to do that. So all I can do is sit here and wait until we hear from the minister on which way he wants to take that forward.
Okay, you can attack this from quite a few angles, and as you fairly said, number one, why hasn't the industry fixed its own problem, and why is it relying on government to do so?
Yeah, that's a fair enough point, but if we look at that and go, the industry's fault, what does that mean, okay? Does that mean that everyone in the wool industry wants the wool price to go down? No, not at all. We're the other side of that fence. We want to make sure that there's longevity. What am I, 48? I've got another 20 or 30 years. Probably now that with this COVID, I probably won't be able to retire because we'll all be paying taxes and be no retirement, But so we've got to look and say, what did we miss? What has happened? Okay, we know that synthetics have taken over not only our industry, but they've taken over the world as well. Have we missed a beat about educating our consumers, our people, around how good wool is? And yeah, we need to take that on the chin. But we also need the government to stand up and, as I said before, stop throwing bullets at the industry and bombs at it and saying you're splintered, you're fragmented, you're not working, the wool price is terrible. We know that, right? That's not a surprise. That's something that's happened, and we need the government to jump in there straight away and go, right, on the back of this COVID now, right, all these Minister Hipkins the other day said he's going to spend $160 odd million fixing school classrooms. Okay, well, that's fantastic, but let's make sure wool goes on the floor of those rooms. Let's go wool into the insulation. Let's go wool furnishings. I know that's not going to fix the problem about where the wool price. It's a start, and at least it shows the government does support wool. And I'm really worried that they don't.
I just don't think this government understand it, but that's a total criticism and an assumption. So it really comes down to what is the role of government in industry and a free market. That's something across the board that I'm talking on this show about a lot. I feel where government can come in is basically gathering people together and forcing them, creating a structure that makes it collaborative and more cohesive. Because to be fair, Craig, they are right. The wool industry has been extremely fragmented for a long time, with a lot of interests, to the fact that you're chairing them all.
Yeah, I suppose I know kind of what you're saying, and it's a tough one to, unless you're sitting in the wool industry, to kind of understand. You know, who do we listen to? Do we listen to the wool brokers or the merchants or the exporters, or the farmers look at it and go, oh, the exporters are taking all the money, and then the merchants are doing, you know, the private dealers and the brokers are just clipping the ticket. They're just processors and getting the wool from the farm gate ready for sale. And a lot of those, you know, the people that don't understand about the exporter side of things, they fund a lot of this industry right through for a lot longer than people really understand. Once again, we've missed the beat about making people's mind and awareness around, if I need to buy something, can I buy it in wool? Is there an option to buy it in wool? Now, like if we looked at the fine wool sector, you can't compare selling a wool garment to selling a carpet or insulation. Carpet insulation is something we stand on, and something goes on the wall and you never see it. A fashion item you wear around, and it's more emotive. So it's a bit of an easier sell. We've got to get people thinking around. Okay, you know, we look at the Green Party talking about microplastics, carpets, plastic carpets, the rhino carpets. You know, like when you put those things in the ground, they stay there forever. You know, you put wool carpets in the ground, they're biodegradable. Let's be smarter about the story we're telling. And this is if we looked around where the National Council is, and whether that's, you know, the right name for these days, I'm not too sure. And that's something that we're definitely looking at. But I do know one thing, that right now we have every single party in the pipeline sitting under the one umbrella, which is great. And I just had a meeting this morning with those members, the merchants, the exporters, the brokers, the test houses, the scours. I spoke with Ron, who's doing a wonderful work out there at the moment around getting products up and ready for commercialisation. Got the campaign for wool that's sitting there, that's educating intermediate schools around with their shipping their wool containers. They're going in and out of intermediate schools. And so we are, everyone's under the same umbrella now. And so that's why we're sitting there and had the mandate and principle this morning from all those members to work with the minister about this report and how he goes about getting it into the marketplace. And I don't know how he's going to do that. And he's the only one that can tell us.
There's a number of chairmen who have changed throughout the course of the wool working group, Craig. And I admire a lot of the people sitting on the wool working group, know them personally. Yep. That's our worry. How much have you been at the table representing the industry in terms of a strategy document created for your industry?
So you're dead right. There's people on the wool working group that I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for. And so they were handpicked. It wasn't picked by the industry. It was handpicked by the chairman of the wool group, who was appointed by the minister. And so for us, as those people have been, as you can probably put in a roundabout way, working on behalf of the growers, because there's 2 growers on there, there's 2 from the trade, and there's people from industry as well. So my input, apart from the early days back in the end of 17 and 18 until the working group was formed, the initial input, but over probably the last 12 months, to be fair, there's been no input from me directly, no. But in saying that, I came to the position of chair as the chairman before me, by the name John Dawson, sadly passed away at the beginning of the year, and a hell of a great man for the industry. And so I've got big shoes to fill, but one thing I've got is a lot of enthusiasm and asking a lot of questions like you are, and Annette is around. What are we going to do with this report once it comes out? How are we going to basically, because we just can't sit back and throw stones at it, right? Because that's no good for the industry. But if we don't do anything with it, it'll just be another report that was written this year, that was written 2 or 3 years ago by Nathan Guy and his team, and the year before that by David Carter, and going right back to the McKinsey report. We just don't want to write a report just because we had a new Minister of Agriculture, right? So let's do something with this. Let's get in behind it in a way that drives the New Zealand wool industry forward.
Okay. Sorry, Craig. And on that, I mean, I was 100% in support of Sandra Taylor's wool levy, which absolutely got shot down in 2014 unfairly, in my mind. That's back on the table. Potentially. Is the discussion around a wool levy potentially back on the table? Because there's one thing to have a strategy, but to be able to commercialise it and fund it is another.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. At this time and point right now, there obviously needs to be funding, and whether that comes from a levy, we all need to make our industry great again. We all need to pay into that. We all need to take some ownership in it with it, and that includes the growers, the brokers, the exporters, the merchants. Everyone involved in it needs to come up with of some funding around that. But we don't want to just go out and say, right, let's start a wool levy. And the first thing growers will do, or I would do as a grower, say, well, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, but at the same time, you look at how it's worked across a lot of other examples of product as well, because the grower has to have some skin in the game of the product and the development of their own industry and their own business model. We've seen it across red meat. We've even seen it in our own wool industry, Craig.
Correct. So, but what about those red meat industries when they've already got a levy in place as well, and then they've got structures around that? So, look, I'm not against a levy. Don't get me wrong, because I think we need to have that funding in place. And yes, everyone has to have skin in the game to make this thing work. And the biggest thing around this is having awareness of what wool is and how good that is. Now we can take that to the world, but let's do it in a way that we sit beside the likes of beef and lamb, and sit beside them, and like the farm assurance quality program that's out there is now. The wool industry is right behind that, and we want to see that as the standard for all New Zealand wool. So then our growers don't have to do 3 or 4 different audits. We can do one, the farm assurance program, which sits in beside in beef and lamb. And then beef and lamb had out here, I think it was at the beginning of the year, they had some influencers, whatever they are, but they would head them out here in New Zealand looking at grass-fed beef. Right? Why don't we as a wool industry jump in beside them and piggyback on the back of that, or work alongside them and share that extra story? It's not only the beef that's been grass-fed, it's great out in New Zealand, but look at the wool as well. Look what we're doing environmentally around that, and selling that story as the primary industry Inc. of New Zealand. And so, yes, we've got to fund it, but let's do it in a way that is accountable. Yeah. Because I think in the past, there's been money given away just on commercial basis, not industry good money. And so let's get smarter about that. And I don't want to say we have to wait on this report from the minister, because there's enough energy and excitement within the wool industry right now that I believe that that we will go, we will do things. Am I saying that the price of wool's going to go up tomorrow? No, I'm not. I'm going to say that we're going to do everything we can to re-educate people about how good wool is, because that's really what we've been missing. You know, like consumers want to blame someone, we blame us. We blame us, the consumers, because we go for the cheapest, fast fashion. We want stuff that, you know, and we don't think past that first point of that first price point. And so we just have to, we've got an opportunity right now because everyone's been at home, right? Everyone's been sitting back going, oh, maybe I should think about that. Maybe I should read that. Maybe I should find out about what that means. We've been able to slow down, reset, now let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's get excited.
Oh, I love it. A great way to end. And Craig, this is why I'm excited that you're at the table, because the role of chair is exactly that, is bringing these people together, smashing some heads, getting people to collaborate. We've got so much opportunity to tell a unique New Zealand story across all of our produce, and in particular the one around a carbon neutral product, which is the thing that excites me the most across all micron of wool. Thank you so much, Craig, for taking the time to join us. I'm sure we will continue this conversation across the year, and I think that we should take on board what Craig Smith has said. Let's not beat up and shoot this report when it comes out, and let's actually try and get behind it, because we need to do something about wool. The fact that it's now costing our farmers to take the wool off is an absolute horrible situation. That is, of course, an animal health situation, but it was our absolute pinnacle product that pulled us through a lot of tough times in the past. And wouldn't it be great if we could make wool great again? That's actually quite a good idea. We could put on some wool beanies this winter, Craig. It's all we've got time for tonight on Sarah's Country. I really do appreciate you staying with us. I mean, with this lockdown, there's been an explosion of webinars and Zoom chats and everything clashing, of course, with Sarah's Country on at night. So I really appreciate if you've dipped in and out, or even if you're just going, it's too hard, I'm listen now on podcast on demand. I really appreciate it. And of course, I sincerely appreciate the amazing team at Farmers Weekly, the content team there. I would be lost without certainly supplying all the great stories and depth behind them. Send me your suggestions for guests, Sarah at periummedia.com, or of course across all my social media platforms. Tonight I want to say good night, go well, and please keep